What's up, friends and neighbors? How y'all doing? Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. I hope that you all can hear me. Sorry about Friday. Some unforeseen things came up. I could not do the show, but don't worry. This Friday, we're going to do a Substack only show. All right. Cool. Thanks for being here. We're just going to get right into it because so much to cover. And because I missed the show on Friday, I am very backed up on the stories to cover. Lots of things to talk about. Don't you know? Where are we going? We're like circling in the drain, I think, of civilization. Maybe. Oh, it sounds really depressing, don't it? We'll start with this. We'll start at the beginning. And I saw something about this on another video, and I feel like in some places the bee collapse is much worse than even this is stating. So, what's up, Rockfinners? We're live on Rockfin, YouTube, Substack. By the way, thank you, Shawnee, for the tip on Friday or Thursday. I didn't catch it at the end of the show, and then I didn't have a show on Friday, so now I'm thanking you now. Carrie Nanstead, if I didn't thank you for the Rockfin tip. I think that's it. U.S. honeybee deaths hit record high as scientists scramble to find main cause. This is from a couple of days ago. U.S. Department of Agriculture calls on university to help study decline as Trump administration staff cuts sting. Get it? Hardy har. Later, sucker. Honeybee deaths have hit record highs in the U.S., with the unprecedented loss of colonies pushing many beekeepers close to ruin as scientists scramble to identify the main cause of the huge declines. Commercial beekeepers have reported losing, that's a little too close, losing 60% of their colonies on average over the winter, according to an ongoing Project APIS M survey that covers more than 2/3 of America's managed bees. This enormous rate of decline is higher than record reduction seen last year and is on track to be the biggest loss of honeybee colonies in U.S. history, according to Scott McArt, an associate professor of entomology at Cornell University. McArt said that the extraordinary rate of loss became apparent during this winter's mass movement of honeybee hives to California to pollinate the vast almond crop there. Something real bad is going on this year, says McArt. We've been seeing high losses year after year, but if anything, it is getting worse, which is troubling. Some places are having devastating losses, and there is a shortfall in pollination in some almond orchards this year. Whether these impacts will cascade to other crops remains to be seen. It's certainly possible. It's all gone, said one beekeeper in response to the Project APIS-M survey. The equity on the house is gone. Our retirement is gone. The family members' money is gone. All that's left are empty boxes. We don't even have the dead bees. They are gone too. Many beekeepers are now struggling to absorb the shortfalls. Some are going out of business altogether. Which further indicates, John Glad says, chemtrails, aluminum nanoparticles. Certainly part of the mix. John Glad says 80% deaths. Yeah, I saw 80, 90, and 100% deaths around some colonies. Well, and there's a lot of, speculation on what is causing it. Pesticides. There's actually a, a a medicine that they give to bees to counter some things that might be taking them out, and that medicine is being linked to a lot of the die-offs. Of course, if there are aluminum nanoparticles around, that would probably inhibit their health and their movement. We're live on Rumble as well, of course. Rumble, Rockfin, YouTube. But whether it be poisons or the combination of all the things that we are doing to the planet, poisoning, heating, altering, expanding, the human race is expanding and taking out a lot of the habitat of many species along with it, and that is also contributing to just randomly thinking about, I was listening to some podcaster who is I don't know I can't remember who it was, who was on the climate change denial side, but or that the humans are caught, have anything to do with, human expansion itself, or human population itself doesn't have anything to do with anything. But reminiscing, telling a story about back in the day, I was working a gig and it was outside of the city, and it was a long way from the gig to the city. And then like a few years later, the city had come all the way out to the gig. And I was like, oh, well, there, certainly no indication that humans aren't expanding hand over fist. No evidence there. If you live in Los Angeles and you drive, on either side of Los Angeles or from one side to the other, in the far reaches of Los Angeles out in the desert, it's just expand homes, expand, these, whatever you call them. Salt Licker says cancer. You can call it cancer. Developments, housing tracts that go up year after year after year, just expanding and expanding and expanding ever outward. That's LA. LA just expands ever outward. And there's no lack of people in the middle of LA. There's just more and more people. And if you go south towards San Diego, it's just city all the way down. It's just, there might be a few places from here to San Diego where there's less humanity than other places, but it's pretty much humans all the way down. Anyways, Joseph Wood says those homes will soon be ocean life housing. Yeah. Well, welcome to all the bots. Thanks for joining in. Glad you guys are here. All the FBI and CIA bots that are here. Oh no, those are real people. You got the regulars that show up. All right, let's. This is, a continuing story. We've been covering this story for years and years. How long have I been doing this show? Almost 8 years. My God. Is that right? I want to say it's almost 8 years. Or about 8 years, right around now. I think it's my anniversary of the show. But I can't remember the day the show started. So, Hey, here's another one. 2050, my son will be the age I was when he was born. We're thinking of working for our kids' future, but most of us are just perpetuating a system on track to burn those futures. Maybe it's already too late, but we owe it to our kids to act and fight like it's not. Uh, I love the sentiment. I do. Let's look at this from the I paper. Professor Bill McGuire hasn't always felt so fatalistic about climate disaster, but since COP26, he's been forced to formulate a plan for survival. I think a lot of people feel like there should be a plan for survival. And I know it's awful doomy and it's not very happy. I, for one, and I think a few other people think that this end run by the powers that be to strip everybody of their rights and put everybody into a digital gulag is absolutely correlated with the collapse of the environment, right? As things start to really unravel, as food scarcity starts to ramp up, as resources start to dwindle, as the ability to carry on supply chains and BAU, that ability starts to decrease or starts to falter. The people that are going to make it are going to be the ones that have everything all locked up or have control of everything. And so I feel like it's deeply tied to the collapse of the environment. Absolutely 100%, because they know, look at what's happening right now in 2025. And they absolutely know that things are going to be much worse by 2030. We have about 5 years before, things really start unwinding, right? If we're going to hit 2 degrees Celsius by sometime between 2030 and 2035. I am painting the most pessimistic picture. Absolutely. Right. There's also another part of me that's just, doing the best I can to build a future that I might want to see or that other people might want to see. And I'm totally on board with doing that. But if you're really thinking about the possibilities of what could be happening in the next 10 years, might be a lot of mayhem. So, just put that in your back pocket. Think about it. Don't think too hard about it, but think about it. Oh yes. The climate is always changing. One of the smartest things ever said. Anyways. In 27 years time, society as we know it. And I can't stop myself from saying this, but the other hilarious thing is how many people report on their events, their travels, their daily lives being disrupted by straight up weather calamities and or whatever it might be. Flood, hurricane, fire, tornado, something, right? How often, I see people having their things disrupted by extreme weather events, but nope. Climate change is definitely not a thing. 27 years time, society as we know it will have collapsed. He says in 27 years, food will be extremely limited. Lawlessness will have taken over the land. Gangs will roam the countryside, scavenging the resources like food, water, and fuel. This breakdown won't be sudden. It will happen over a period of months. It might even have already begun. This may sound like a cliche dystopian fantasy, but Bill McGuire, a professor of geophysical and climate hazards at University of London, or University College of London, an author of Hothouse Earth, an inhabitant's guide, doesn't think so. He is expecting and preparing for widespread riots by 2050. The riots will begin, he says, as they have throughout history when we run out of food. McGuire hasn't always had such a fatalistic thinking. As a professor, he had remained hopeful throughout his career that politicians would be able to enact systemic solutions to the problem of global warming. Then came Glasgow COP26 in November 2021. For the entire conference, McGuire was enraged that policymakers appeared to be focusing their efforts on ways to keep global temperatures within 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels. It was bloody obvious that wasn't going to happen. And we're already past it, if you're being honest. And he may be right. Researchers have since reported there is now a 66% chance that Earth will surpass this warming threshold anytime between 20. When is the date of this article? This is 2023. Ha ha ha. 2023 and 2027. Yeah, right in the middle. Basically 2025. Actually, we surpassed last year. 2024 was basically 1.5, and we were above 1.5 almost the entire year. With only 2 months that we dipped to 1.48. So consider it broken. Now McGuire is taking matters of survival into his own hands. But before he tells me his plan, he says, I think we do need to set the scene. Anyways. But, these are things we've all heard many, 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 many times. Food will become more scarce. Growing food will become more difficult. Crops will fail. Supply chains will fail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh my God, Joseph. That is freaking heartbreaking. Anyways, I was reading it more for the headline. The details, we all know the details. We've discussed the details ad infinitum, ad nauseum. So, and time is short, and so we're going to keep going. If you want to read that paper, it's out there, the I paper. If we hit 2C by, 2030, 2032 is what they're saying. I think we're on the short ride to 2C because we're already pretty much at 1.6 or 1.7 or whatever it is you want to call it. Oh, that was a mistake. At 2C is when things get really interesting. Bella says at 3C, the 405 will be underwater. No doubt. Yeah. At 3C, things are going to be really, really interesting. And by interesting, I mean the Chinese version of interesting, as in not great. Speaking of China, this is interesting. So y'all heard about the proposed or the intended sale of the ports of Panama to a BlackRock consortium? Because the Trump administration, along with Marco Rubio, have insisted they were going to take over the ports and take control of the Panama Canal, basically. And there was here we go. Yeah, this is a pretty interesting post here. China has stepped in to halt the sale of the Panama port operations to a BlackRock consortium. To protect fair competition and safeguard the interests of the public, it will conduct an antitrust review of the deal first, the Chinese regulator said on its WeChat account on Friday. Whoa. Hold up. Slow down, partner. Tycoon Li Ka-shing's company was due to sign a deal next week selling most of the C.K. Hutchison port operations to a group led by a massive U.S.-dominated financial corporation, BlackRock. Quote, "We will invade and take it." The deal, announced last month, stunned the world as it followed direct threats from the U.S.'s bully boy, President Donald Trump, that he was prepared to invade Panama to get hold of the ports. The new announcement puts the $22.8 billion deal on hold. The irony, some might find, isn't this amazing? That the ports of the Panama Canal are being sold for $22 billion, and Twitter was purchased for $33 billion. Why 33? People who are clued into the numbers thing, you know that recently Elon Musk sold Twitter to himself, and I think the price was 33 billion. But previously, when he bought Twitter, wasn't it 44 or 45 billion? Twitter, 33 billion. The ports of Panama, 22 billion. That's interesting to me. The irony, some might find it, what is happening to be ironic. China, long accused of being authoritarian, is using international antitrust laws which prevent the creation of unfair monopolies which harm global free trade by stifling competition. I think, back in the day, the U.S. Was a proponent of such laws, but not so much anymore. We're slowly or quickly stripping any pretense of, being a lawful society. In contrast, the U.S. has been using threats of invasion and economic coercion to stifle competition, as if it was running a war against free trade. We also might be waging a war against democracy, which is funny because so many things that are a threat to our democracy, but we're mostly the threat to everyone else's democracy. Figure that one out. The latest development also shows a key contrast between the U.S. and China. In the U.S., corporations and rich organizations control Congress and its members. In China, even the wealthiest business leaders, such as Jack Ma and Li Ka-shing, cannot overrule the government. Upping the ante, China's step puts a pause of unknown length on the deal, but it also ups the ante. Up to now, the Hong Kong Chinese company has run their Panama operations according to normal global trade processes, with standard fees for using the port. In contrast, Trump administration clearly sees the port as a strategic tool. It remains to be seen how Trump responds. 4 choke points. America wants to control over 4 of the world's key choke points for sea trade. As well as taking control of Panama, the U.S. wants to build an alternative to the Suez Canal running through Israel close to the Gaza Strip. That they do want to do that. Did I talk about that? I think I showed a video on that of the plan to build a new canal or an alt canal through Gaza, basically. Anyways, it also wants to control over control over far northern sea routes, including the Northwest Passage that runs through Canada. I wonder why Trump might want to take Canada or absorb Canada. Well, then you would control that passage, right? And the rush. Look at this. Look where Greenland is. In conjunction to the Northeast Passage. The Northeast Passage that runs near Greenland. Is this all coming together? Is this all making sense? Why we're threatening to take Canada? Why we want to absorb Greenland? Why we want to relocate the people of Gaza? Why we want to buy and control the Panama Canal? One more. In conclusion, great post, says Starboy Sar. However, if CK's port sales to BlackRock were to proceed, it would provide the U.S. with extra strategic choke points along China's BRI, Belt Road Initiative, in South Asia and Southeast Asia as well. I don't know. I guess so. BlackRock to acquire 43 ports from CK Hutchison. Hutchison's ports in mainland China and Hong Kong are not being sold. Excuse me. Okay. Moving on. This post here from DropSite. Gaza to run out of food in 10 days under ongoing siege. The UN World Food Program warns that food supplies in Gaza could be depleted within 10 days, leaving hundreds of thousands without sustenance. Nearly 2 million people, 90% of the Gaza's population, rely on food aid. WFP's flour supply for bakeries serving 800,000 people will last only 2 more days through Monday. That would be today. WFP said it has emergency stocks of fortified biscuits, enough for 415,000 people, to be used as last resort if all of the food stocks are exhausted. The organization urged all parties to prioritize civilians, protect humanitarian workers, and allow aid into Gaza immediately, the agency said. Well, this is interesting. Timothy Martin says China owns the port in Vancouver that lets fentanyl in. Okay. Congress has removed a ban on funding neo-Nazis. Well, I guess you should probably put in parentheses at the end of this headline, officially, right? Because they're funding they've been funding neo-Nazis the whole time. Even if there was a ban. Oh, hold on one second, guys, okay? Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that. Anyways, they've been a funding the neo-Nazis. They've been a supporting the neo-Nazis. They've been lacking the neo-Nazis, hanging out with the neo-Nazis, cavorting with the neo-Nazis, all around pals with the neo-Nazis. But now it's official. They have removed the ban on funding neo-Nazis from its year-end spending bill. All right. And nothing changed. Under pressure from the Pentagon, Congress has stripped the spending bill of an amendment that prevented funds from falling into the hands of Ukrainian neo-fascist groups. What is this? Oh, this is an old ass article. Okay, anyways. Well, not breaking news. This article is from 2016. All right. Well, like I said, they've been funding the neo-Nazis. I really thought that was... I really hate when people post stuff like that on Twitter. And usually I look at those things a little bit closer. But anyways, we've been funding the neo-Nazis since officially since 2016 and unofficially since 2014. And unofficially, officially since 1936 or whenever the hell. All the corporations were funding the Nazis in Germany, right? There was, let me see. There was Prescott Bush. There was Henry Ford. There was IBM. There's a bunch more too. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a headline from one of the main news outlets in Israel. In one of Gaza's darkest nights, this is October 7th, the IDF killed nearly 300 women and children. Or no, not October 7th. Is this the other day? The top headline of one of Israel's leading newspapers. It's unimaginable that any major U.S. outlet would have the moral courage to speak this candidly about Israel's crimes. Yeah, this just happened recently. I was thinking, but there's another headline that came out saying that on October 7th, the Hannibal Directive was issued and that many of the casualties were actually the IDF firing on its own people. Just anything that moves, But those are his. Nope. Okay. Going to take a veering off into 9/11 land just for a second. Because once in a while, we like to revisit 9/11. Why not? Why didn't we see these videos in the mainstream media loop on 9/11? Well, once you watch this, you'll know why.
No, a bomb. I saw it. No plane hit nothing.
That is not a plane. They don't know what they're talking about. How would they see a plane hit that?
Dude, I saw the second explosion. That was no plane that hit the second building. It exploded from the inside out.
It was a bomb. Bombed another building, not second plane. That was a bomb. Right. Who said the second plane?
That's what we're told. The second plane.
No,
we saw it on television.
Everything.
All right. Thanks a lot.
What happened was I was down in the basement. All of a sudden we heard a loud bang. And the elevator doors blew open. Some guy was burnt up. So I dragged him out. His skin was all hanging off. So I dragged him out and I pulled him out of the parking lot. This was what was left on it. Pulled him out. When I pulled him out, I looked up and the second bomb blew off. Just saw a big burst.
All of a sudden, you heard a loud explosion. So we all ran to look. And the first building was a big hole on the side of it, and on the other side went in flames. So we stood there in shock. Everyone's screaming. A woman collapsed on me. I had to lay her down on my textbooks. And then before you know it, out of nowhere, the next building blew up. And then all of a sudden, everybody's in everyone's running all over the place. A panic attack.
We actually didn't see the second plane, but we saw the explosion hit the other tower.
It has to be a bomb, right? Yes, of course. That exploded right in front of us.
I did not see a plane. They said the plane hit the first building. The second building just exploded.
That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
All right. Eyewitness accounts. Not seeing a plane. And there's, a lot of really well thought out explanations for that. If I don't know if you can find those videos anymore. But Bella, you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. This is interesting. This is just another wrinkle in this, in the story, still ongoing story of 9/11. Former director of CIA John Brennan issued the visas to 15 of the 19 September 11 hijackers. Again, 15 out of the 19 visas issued to the 9/11 hijackers were issued by the man who would become director of the CIA. John Brennan was the CIA Daily Intelligence briefer for President Bill Clinton. Ooh. Which show, these plans, span multiple administrations, right? You can't, that's why it's funny when people are like, Republicans or Democrats or, Biden or Bush or Trump. When people have tried to point the finger at like one person being like the bad, no, they the bad is stretches over multiple administrations over decades. These plans are put into motion with the cooperation of each administration that comes along, right? Democrat, Republican, Democrat, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, in 1996, he was a CIA station chief at Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I'd never known about this one, right? John Brennan issued passports to 9/11 hijackers. What the hell? What are the odds? Let's listen to this from Mike Benz.
And the visa scandals are all over this. It was John Brennan as CIA station chief, by the way, in Saudi Arabia, in the run-up to 9/11, who together with the U.S. consulate issued the visas to 15 of the 19 9/11 hijackers. That was our visas. Now, look, there were only 11 of the 19 were Saudis. They were actually giving Saudi visas to non-Saudis. And 15 of the 19, you can read all about this in the guy who ran the visa desk for that U.S. consulate is J. Michael Springman. He wrote a book called Visas for Terrorists, where he goes over how the whole thing was done. And the visa scandals are all over this. It was John Brennan as CIA station chief, by the way, in Saudi Arabia, in the run-up to 9/11, who together with the U.S. consulate issued the visas to 15 of the 19 9/11 hijackers. That was our visas. Now, look, there were only 11 of the 19 were Saudis. They were actually giving Saudi visas to non-Saudis. And 15 of the 19, you can read all about this in the guy who ran the visa desk for that U.S. consulate is J. Michael Springman. He wrote a book called Visas for Terrorists, where he goes over how the whole thing was done. And the visa scandals are all over this. It was John Brennan as CIA station chief, by the way.
Okay. I think we've listened to that twice. Sorry about that. That's wild. That's wild. Well, you learn something new every day, don't you? Okay. I saw this the other day too. Like I said, I've got a backlog of things to talk about because I didn't have a show the other day. So I'm behind. By the way, if you like the show, coming to you for free 99 Monday through Friday. And you like the information you get on this show, if you find the show valuable to your your information stream and you want to support the show, well, that's really great. And there's lots of ways to do that in the description box. Of all the channels you're watching on, there's lots of links with which you can support the channel. All the usuals are there. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, Buy Me Coffee, Ko-Fi, etc. Also, newly added Substack. Many of you support the show already. You know who you are, and I thank you. Also, please get up in the Black Bear News chat, which is Telegram, t.me/Black Bear News chat. That link is in the description box. If you want to, whatever, talk about anything we didn't cover during the show. If you want to post links or articles or whatever, go to the Telegram chat and go do that there. Or you talk amongst yourselves if you or argue amongst yourselves, whatever you want to do. I feel like the Telegram turns into a brawl really fast, so people get in there and start duking it out. But if that's your idea of fun, well, then the Telegram chat is a place for you. All right. Where are we at? Trump's FBI moves to criminally charge major climate groups. Wow. Because they don't, this actually, I feel like aligns with what I just said in the beginning of the show. Because they don't want people out there getting in the way of their plans to lock up whatever's remaining of the resources or the power nodes of the planet. They want to do that as quickly as possible, and they don't want anybody standing in the way of that or voicing opposition to that. Trump's FBI moves to criminally charge major climate groups. The Trump administration is targeting climate organizations that received a Biden-era grant. The FBI is moving to criminalize. This is so ridiculous because wow. Because, people voted to give them, like, it's a little bit, the government gave them grants. So how could you charge them criminally if the government handed you these grants? That seems a little like what's the word for it? Like a setup? FBI is moving to criminalize groups like Habitat for Humanity. What? For receiving grants from the Environmental Protection Agency under the Biden administration. That is wild. Citibank revealed in a court filing Wednesday that it was told to freeze the group's bank accounts at the FBI's request. Whoa. The reason the FBI alleges that the groups are involved in possible criminal violations, including conspiracy to defraud the United States. Wow. The FBI has told Citibank that recipients of EPA climate grants are being considered as potentially liable for fraud. That is, the Trump administration wants to criminalize work on climate science and impacts. The Capitol Hunters account wrote Wednesday on X. An incoming administration not only cancels federal grants, but declares recipients as criminals. All these grantees applied under government calls for environmental work were reviewed and accepted. Trump wants to jail them. The Appalachian Community Capital Corporation, the Coalition for Green Capital, and the DC Green Bank are just some of the nonprofits being targeted. This is not fraud. This is targeted harassment. Capitol Hunters continued. The idea of criminalizing community climate work wouldn't have originated at the FBI. It likely comes from the EPA director, Lee Zeldin, who today cut all EPA's environmental justice offices, which try to reduce pollution in poor and minority communities. Zeldin's order eliminates 10 EPA regional offices as well as the one in Washington, D.C. You're what? Yikes. That's from March 12th. Why don't y'all try and find some criminals instead of harassing people who are trying to protect people from, well, yeah. That is, beyond frightening and bizarre. Joseph Wood says Europe is airing 72-hour disaster preparedness commercials. Yeah. Might have something to do with those hidden dead man switches. I'll call them that. In Europe somewhere. Major cities in Europe might have a dead man switch somewhere. In case somebody doesn't go along with the plans. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Well, did we talk about Stardust? I think we already did. Mysterious startup is developing a new form of solar geoengineering. A new form. A new form. We kind of looked at this the other day. But in the second line, U.S. Israeli company wants to block sun rays from reaching the planet. The U.S. Israeli company, you say? Huh. Okay. Wired.com is reporting that a mysterious startup is developing a new form of solar geoengineering. Called Stardust, intends to patent its unique aerosol technology for temporarily cooling the planet. Formed in 2023. So let me get this straight. They're criminalizing climate groups, but forming startups to cool the planet. Just think through that one. U.S. Israeli startup to cool the planet, but climate groups are engaged in fraud. I don't understand. What? Okay. Formed in 2023, Stardust wants to develop proprietary geoengineering technology that would help block sun rays from reaching the planet. Why would you do this if this wasn't a viable profit-making technology? This is a private company, right? They're not. This isn't a government agency. This is a private company. Why would they do that? You're starting this company in order to turn a profit, in order to sell your technology to governments or other corporations. So come again. Tell me more about how climate change isn't happening. For one, tell me more about how climate change isn't happening. Because why would you do this if this wasn't happening? It's kind of like insurance companies pulling out of major markets due to climate change. Why would they do that? Why would you not engage in the business that you're supposed to engage in? Why would you kill your own business for something that isn't real? I don't know. I heard that too, Schulte. Yeah. He wants to take Greenland by force, the Panama Canal by force, and possibly Canada. Did you see the thing about him agreeing to the United States becoming going back to being part of the Commonwealth of England or the UK Commonwealth? Did you see that one? What does that mean? Anyways, Stardust has kept its plans largely secret. The company has not publicly released details about its technology, its business model, or exactly who works at its company. The secretive organization also wants to sell its proprietary geoengineering technology to governments that are considering making modifications to the global climate, acting like kind of a defense contractor for climate alteration. Yikes. Get zoinks. Stardust is moving forward despite few national and international rules and limited oversight. In fact, a recent report by the company's former climate governance consultant, Janos Pastor, calls for the company to increase its transparency, engagement, and communication with outsiders. Pastor says Stardust doesn't have a social license for geoengineering activities, meaning the company has apparently not been open to public or peer scrutiny about its intentions. It hasn't published any of its research and has no code of conduct. Well, that's why you privatize this stuff. Because you can do whatever you want in secret. You don't have to disclose what you're doing. If it was a government agency or a government arm of the government, well, you might be subject to scrutiny. Anyways. His chief product officer, Amjad Spector, is a physicist and former employee of Israel's nuclear research program. Stardust plans include distributing proprietary aerosol particles through a machine mounted on an aircraft. Whoa! You mean like chemtrails? All of this stuff, especially the private companies getting into the geoengineering thing, all of it is a reveal or part of the timeline for a reveal of like, oh yeah, we've been doing this for a while. Okay. Alrighty then. All right, we're getting to the end of the time of the show of the time of the show. Just bringing you, bits of news from around the world and from, I guess, the last week or so, or the last couple of days. Anyways, what say you? Let's see. Just checking to see if I've gotten any donations today. Don't think so. I don't think so. The company plans to test these proprietary particles in the stratosphere in the coming year. All right. Look for some some corporate approved chemtrails near you. Okay. Stratosphere, huh? Yeah, way up there, huh? Okay. All right, guys. I appreciate you. I really, really do. Don't think I have anybody to thank today, but I will see you all tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. And with that, peace out.